thank you so much. You came from a long way. I live 5 kilometers from here. I bet you live a lot more further away than I do. My name is Todd. This is a big day for Netflix because we're launching our super popular show, our 2nd season of Daredevil. I think tonight you'll see members of my team as they go about the work to launch it across the world. And it means a lot to us that they can flip one switch and everyone around the world exactly at the same second will be able to access our content and to be able to watch season 2 of Daredevil. Let me tell you a little about myself. I've been at Netflix for over 10 years. Time flies when you're having fun. I got here and Netflix was a very different company. We were only in the US. We were only a DVD company, believe it or not.
Renting DVDs, right?
We were shipping DVDs in the mail. Very primitive, that old-fashioned mail. It takes 2 days to get a title. We were shipping DVDs in the mail, and we were only a website. We weren't on all the devices we're on today. Over the years, the company has changed radically. Now we're 20 times bigger. I think more than 20 times bigger than when I got here. Wow, it's crazy. We're over 20 times bigger, and it's really changed. My job is I oversee product at Netflix. My title is VP of Product Innovation because we're always innovating. We're always trying to make the service better for all of our members around the world. My job basically in my team has 2 parts to it. If you take the metaphor of a car, there's the people who create the look of the car, everything on the outside of the car. And then there's a team that when you lift up the hood, it's the engine of the car. And so that's how I describe 2 parts of my team. On the top, on the surface of the car, I have all the product design and the people who are trying to figure out what Netflix looks like on a phone, on a tablet, on the website, on a TV screen. If you're streaming Netflix with a smart TV, if you're streaming Netflix on an iPhone or an Android phone or a tablet. So it's figuring out the look and making it easy to navigate through Netflix, whether you're using touchscreen, left, right, up, down on a remote control on a TV, or a mouse and keyboard. And so we're constantly testing and making that better. That's above the hood. Below the hood is I have part of my team that's really focused on the logic underneath Netflix. A lot of complexities around machine learning and mathematics to make it easy. We don't want anyone to see, you don't look at the engine typically at a car and stare at it unless you're a real car geek and you go, ooh, that's wonderful. Most people never open up the hood. But that's really important what's going on in here. So consumers don't need to know all the complexity. All they need to know is there's something great for me to watch tonight, and I'm going to click play, and it's super simple, and I'm going to watch it. So we're constantly innovating, we're constantly testing. And so we're constantly testing on those algorithms. Because Netflix, what we have is we have the privilege to have access to a mountain of data. But that mountain of data, there was a cliche that was going around Silicon Valley for a long time about big data. Oh, big data this. Oh, big data is the solution. Oh, big data can walk on water. Big data is a mountain that's composed mostly of trash, of garbage, with a few gold nuggets in there. So imagine you had to dive headfirst into a dumpster, go through all this garbage, and then occasionally you find gold. The kinds of data I'm talking about are, at Netflix, we know what device our member is watching it on, what time of day, what day of week. We know if they played something and abandoned that piece of content after 3 minutes, or it was a television series and they binged through 6 episodes in a night. We know many things about it. We have profiles for the family to decide where they want to go. We know what profile it was streamed on. All that data, some of what I just said is very useful and some isn't. We know a lot more. We know what they watched before that one, what they watched after that one, etc., etc. So what we're doing with all that complex mathematics and all that machine learning is figuring out what parts of that data are valuable, and the parts that are valuable, how valuable and how much should we weight it in determining what to bubble up to the top of the Netflix UI. So Netflix, as we've launched around the world, we have many thousands of titles, and that catalog is just going to keep on growing. Every consumer wants that. They want a bigger and bigger catalog, and that's great, and we're doing everything we can. We'll double the catalog in the first year of what we have in all of our global markets, and then we'll double it again the year after. So with all that content, though, it's a double-edged sword, because no one goes home, they work so hard, or they went to school and they're exhausted, they flop down on their chair or their couch, They don't want to think. They just want to enjoy. And so we don't want them to have to go through hundreds and hundreds of pieces of content. Now let me give you a little statistic. Observing all of our Netflix members over many years, the typical Netflix member in any session will only look at 40 to 50 titles, and then they'll choose. And so it's really important to us, even though there's thousands of titles, we need to bubble up to the top for each individual the right 40 or 50 titles. Now, if it's something like Daredevil, that's one thing, because Daredevil, that's going to be super popular around the world, and, action and superhero and so forth. But how about if it's a documentary about food, or some political drama that's super serious, or something from world cinema that's not in a particular user's first language? Then it gets harder to really find out which users do we bubble out to the top and which we don't. Tell you in all my 10 years in Netflix, one of the most important moments to me that I'll never forget is January 6th. I'm being sincere about this, is I literally got misty-eyed and a chill went up my spine. Because to think of the idea that humble little service that we began as, which all we wanted to do was just keep on bringing more and more entertainment easily into people's homes, when we flipped a switch and launched into countries like, suddenly we were in Singapore and India and Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and, all around the world, Philippines. Suddenly we were all in all these countries we'd never been in before. That was huge. That was a big deal. But that's just the start for us, because we know that we want to keep on improving the service, and we have a long way to go to make it as good as our ambitions are, and we're going to keep on making it better. One of the things we worked on in 2015 in anticipation of this global launch is to take those algorithms, all the mathematics underneath the hood, and we had to make them global. I'll tell you why we had to make it global. If you come to Netflix and you were the very first member to use us in India, we have no data in India. So if you're hitting, where are we going to find out if the person hits play then and watches a piece of content, and then they watch another? How do we understand who they are and how to service them with the best stuff if they're the only person? Or if there's only 100 people? We have over 75 million members globally at Netflix, and that's growing. We only have, we started with 1, and then 100, then into the thousands, and then into the tens of thousands, but we have a long way to go in many of these countries we've launched in, and so hundreds of thousands. And so to get a rich enough amount of data, we had to make our algorithms global. It just couldn't be for each particular country like we used to do it. We had to make it one big global algorithm. So the first assumption in people's minds, and everyone thinks this, I've talked to people many years, and they're thinking, well, pick your country. I'm from Germany, and our taste is really different, and we tend to like this, and and they're very like, you don't understand, you don't get it. But I'll tell you the truth. That's not the truth. The truth is that personally, I like documentaries. I like really edgy, dark movies. I like things with like heavy, serious themes, and I like even my comedy had to be edgy. Unless I'm watching with my wife, and then I'll watch some sappy romantic comedy, especially if I'm on her bad side, and I want to get back to the good side. So, it really, my taste, very particular. My next door neighbor, 100 meters away, might like super gory, bloody slasher movies, horror movies that I don't want to watch that. I don't want to watch that. They might like, besides when I'm trying to make my wife happy, really sappy romantic comedies that I really honestly don't want to watch. They live right next door to me. But there could be people around the world, people who live thousands of kilometers away from me, who are very close to my taste. So a global algorithm, when we launch in a new country, and as that country grows, we can use the data from around the world to leverage it and really get at what a particular person likes. So let me show you an example of how that works. We built a quick tool to demonstrate how that would work. So obviously no shock to you guys. I've been watching Netflix content for years, and I watch a lot of it. My kids don't even know what a TV commercial is, and they're 9 and 12 years old, because I don't let them watch things with advertisements in them. They just watch Netflix. And so the very rare occasion when my kids are watching like regular linear TV with ads in it, first, when they were younger, when they were like 5 and 6, they didn't even understand what was going on. Where's my story? What is this? Did you change the channel? And they got really upset. Did you take it off? And then I would explain to them, no, and then I would play a game with them, and the game I would play with them is, what are they trying to sell you now? And it would be like, we'd guess on it, and we go like, and then the kids would guess, they're trying to sell me sunglasses, and then that would be my daughter, and my son would go, no, they're trying to sell that car, no, they're trying to sell that drink, and then because this was so weird for them. So going back to this, my taste versus the world's taste. We built this little tool, we're going to put in my email. This is literally what I watch on my profile. And we're going to see the 15 people in the world, where do they live, who are most similar to my taste, and where are the hot spots of the kinds of content I watch. And I tend to watch a lot of global cinema too. What do I watch? So we go there.
TLN at Netflix.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Hope this works. This is brand new. We just built it for demonstration purpose. But this is honest. This is looking through all the Netflix database at all of our users. It's looking at my viewing history. It's looking at what other people watch. Let's broaden it out. And if you look at the 15 people like me, let's see where they live. So I was born in New York. I think that's a little north of where I was born. Where's that one, Sweetha? That's in Massachusetts. It's a little north of where I'm born. Obviously, I live here now. What is this? Los Altos, only 20 kilometers away. Out of the whole 75 million plus members in the world, there's someone who lives 20 kilometers in here. I wish I knew the address, but we keep all our data anonymous, so I'm not even going to find out myself who that person is because we want to respect the data. But there's someone who lives in Los Altos. And then, interestingly enough, let's go over here. What country is that? Is that Singapore or something? Yeah, Singapore. And what's right above that? Right next to it? Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Wow, I've never even been to Malaysia. And let's go over here.
Bangalore.
Bangalore. Oh, you're good. So, and
He's
there's,
from Bangalore, so he was.
oh, so I'm not impressed
You
anymore.
can
So, no, it's cool.
Is it you?
It's awesome. You're invited over for movie night down at my house. You have amazing taste. So, these are people that are around the world. There's only one person who even lives even close to where I'm at. Now, more important, this is more of like a fun thing to realize that there are people that are close to your taste that are spread around the world. But if you look at the hot spots here, the yellow shows some centers of where people are similar to my taste, and then there are particular red hot spots of people that are interested in the kinds of things that I'm interested in. But if you had to narrow it to 15 different members around the world, those are the 15 members that are most like me. Why that matters to us is because one way we use that big mountain of data is we're forming clusters of users. We have a couple of thousands of clusters of users based on what they're watching. And the clusters aren't just based on things we tag it on. They're pieces, they're titles that just go together based on what they're watching. And so, for example, let's go into the upper right and let's look at my clusters.
Sorry, just one question.
Yeah.
When you say members, you mean profiles?
I mean individual profiles, because in my house we have multiple. Thank you for clarifying. So here's everyone's in different clusters. We have a couple of thousand, and then a different percent of you is in different ones. So based on the stuff, I do like comedy, and I do tend to like a lot of stand-up comedians. And so I'm getting some of that. I like edgier content, and I like documentaries. There's a documentary, this documentary, all these things are like edgy or documentaries. And then the algorithms decide how content gets clustered together. We don't. So it's not like we label it. If you look at these titles, you wouldn't naturally think they go together. But people who tend to watch them tend to watch that cluster of content in a particular group. It's interesting, to demonstrate this kind of thing, one of the more famous American movie directors we work with is David Fincher. He's made a lot of major American movies. He made Scorpio and Seven, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Yeah.
Social network.
Social Network. Should have mentioned that first. That's maybe his biggest. Thank you. He made Social Network, which was nominated for an Oscar, and Fincher made House of Cards for us. And so when House of Cards first came out, he was wondering what other titles cluster with House of Cards. And some of them were obvious. Like there was another American series, The West Wing. Well, if you're into politics, that's obvious. But another title that clustered along with House of Cards was It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, some strange little American comedy that he never even heard of, very niche, very cult, but people who tend to watch it. So the algorithms figure out things that we wouldn't guess at subjectively, but they do tend to go together, and that's what helps us put the right content in front of the right person at the right time. Let's look at another example. Smitha, why don't you put in yours?
Let's give it a try.
I didn't tell her we were going to do this.
So this anyone can try, or this tool?
Right now, in fact, erase your name. Let's put in his name instead.
Okay.
What's your email that you use for Netflix?
AGGAR WAL dot VAR VAR
Yep.
at gmail.com.
Come back to the original question. Against his ID, he may have
Don't
multiple
enter.
profiles. How do you sort of figure out which profile?
We would, so this is a tool that we're actually plumbing through the database and looking through this, but we do personalize for each profile individually. I couldn't enter a different
But I
profile
know,
in this
because
tool
my daughter and I watch different stuff.
on two different profiles. Totally. Yeah, so it depends on
I don't want her cartoons cluttering up my profile.
Yeah, exactly. And I have that same attitude too with my two kids. They each have their own profile, and they fight if they use each other's profile. And that's a whole nother story that it would take me more than an hour to recreate. So, how much Netflix have you watched?
Not much.
Okay, so you haven't because you're new to the service and so
Yeah.
forth. What kinds of titles have you watched so far?
So Daredevil, and there's this British comedy I was watching.
Okay, so based
Just two or three maybe.
obviously I've been using Netflix for years, so we get a deeper understanding. You might like all kinds of content. This is only capturing your first glimpse, and we'll get to know you more and more, and the system will get smarter and smarter
Right.
the more you watch. So just based on this very narrow piece of content, mine was pretty accurate. Those people must be like me. This will just be your Netflix thing. Let's go and let's see what we get.
So this thing is a new thing, this global community. It's a new service that you will
This
launch,
global algorithm we just launched with, this little tool I'm showing you is just a
but this is only
demonstration.
for you. It's not for the audience to see who.
Yeah, they can't. They can't.
Yeah,
do
they
this.
can't.
This isn't a feature that everyone can get. This is something I'm demonstrating. So basically, even though where are you from?
India.
From India.
India. So I would have guessed, but I never want to get stereotypical with anyone. So you're from India. You don't have anyone in India. If you watch a lot of Bollywood content, you haven't watched it on Netflix yet, so we don't have that captured. But as we expand our Bollywood collection, if you watch, you might hate Bollywood content. I don't want to, no judgment, or you might love it. It doesn't matter. But as you continue to watch stuff, we'll learn more about you, and then it will show more and more on the globe who you're like. But what you've watched so far indicates that you might want to move to Mexico. So this demonstrates the general idea that a global algorithm could work because, once again, it's not about the proximity. There are certain things we've learned for years that people haven't really grown to understand, which is super important. People overrate, different companies overrate age, they overrate gender, and they overrate geography. So age and gender, we used to on Netflix collect age and gender from every one of our members. This is long before we came to the rest of the world. This is when Netflix was just in the US. Everyone would get their age and gender, and we thought that would be really important for personalization. If I just knew it was a 17-year-old guy versus a 63-year-old woman, then I'd understand. 17-year-old guy, giant machine guns, superheroes, action, I'm set. 63-year-old woman, show older people having relationship problems and eventually living happily ever after meeting the perfect man or woman, usually in a second marriage at 63. Joking around. But we would find, very cliched things about a man, a young man, older woman, middle-aged, whatever, person in their 20s or 30s. And we realized really quickly, if they hit play once on Netflix, we learn more about them. And there are 17-year-old guys who like to watch documentaries about wedding dresses. And there are 63-year-old women who like to watch slasher movies about a killer gone amok and terrorizing the community. Or maybe even Human Centipede. I don't know. Of course, there are people who watch all kinds of stuff. So you want to basically really learn about the individual because people are different. And people who've lived, I just demonstrated in this tool, it's accurate for me because I watch so much Netflix content. Where I live is really not that important. It's what my taste is. And so an analogy for this is when we launched into some place like, I'll use India because that's where you're from. When we launched in India and the first person came in, they might have been a huge fan of Japanese anime. And so an anime fan there you know, it's not like everyone in India watches anime. It's a small population. It's very specific. But one thing we've learned about anime, even though it's a very specific aesthetic, even though it comes out of Japan, 90% of people who watch anime don't live in Japan. They live around the world. But in Japan, the 10% are totally concentrated in one place. The 90% are tiny minorities spread all around the world. So if they walked into a video store in Bangalore, for example, an old-fashioned video store, take your minds back to when they had horses and carriages and DVD stores and stuff like that. And so they'd walk into an old-fashioned store and they wanted anime. They're going to have the most popular Bollywood films in that Bangalore store, or whatever, or Tamil, or I don't even know, Bengal, or whatever language you guys are. What kind of movies do they have where you're from?
Bollywood movies.
A lot of Bollywood. So there's going to be a ton of Bollywood. And then maybe back in the store on a dusty old shelf, buried all the way here, there'd be like 3 anime titles that they could find way under there. And the poor kid or the poor adult or that 63-year-old woman who loves anime wouldn't be able to find it because it'd be buried. At Netflix, it's our job to find that person who likes that and not to be confronted with an almost empty shelf, but to bubble it up to the top, and when they get there, the 40 or 50 titles they're looking at won't be all anime, because we've learned that variety is important too. Don't just because you watch one piece of content, we're not going to make the whole screen that kind, but we'll definitely show and make it easy for them to find that particular title or what they want. So personalization, super important. I'm going to give you one more story about the importance of globalization. The one thing that we're working on right now to get smarter on is language. So when it comes to localization, localizing into different languages, we're going to expand more and more and localize into different languages. We've launched in India, for example, all in English, because so far what we learned is the early adopters in India, their English is good enough that we're fine for a while. But eventually we'll localize into more and more languages in India. But language does matter. So, for example, even though I might like independent, dark movies, if I had a choice, I'd rather see one in English than one in Spanish or German or Hindi. If I had a choice. If it was a great story in one of those languages, I do tend to have an open mind about world cinema, and I watch movies from all around the world. But Americans are notoriously allergic to subtitles. More than any other country, Americans don't like to watch this. And I know this because sometimes when I go to a world cinema, if I go to a foreign film in the US, I have to drive a long distance to go to a small theater with a ripped screen and a sticky floor and broken seats and 5 other people in the theater watching the movie I want to see. They're just not that popular.
But he broke that notion with Narcos.
Yes. This guy knew what I was going to say. You know, I need to rest. You stand up there and I'm going to sit over there. No, we did, because 70% of it is in Spanish, and that was our Trojan horse. Because we went in with something that, it was a good story that people wanted to watch. And if you have a good story, and this is like the whole lesson, the thing that I'm most proud of, you know, my history is before Netflix years ago, I was a filmmaker. I made even a film that's on our U.S. service. I love movies. I used to shoot documentaries. So basically, I like the idea of making it one globe when it comes to storytelling. If there's a great story produced in Germany, I want to see it. And I want everyone to see it. If there's a great story produced in Sweden or Brazil or India or the US or Mexico, I want everyone to be able to see that. And sometimes the price of seeing something amazing is some people have to read subtitles. But if it's that good a story and that compelling, so we're really trying to make it one world of TV series and movies. That's why, you know, we release everything at the same time for our originals when we are able to, and so forth. And that's important to us from global cinema and global TV. Let me change topics. I got one more topic, and then you guys are going to ask me whatever you want, and I'll answer whatever you got. So it's really important. So how do we know what works and what doesn't? When I was talking about that big mountain of data, which is really a big mountain of garbage with gold buried in there, how do we know which is the gold and which one is the garbage? And the way we do that with our algorithms, the way we do that with our user interfaces in our design, is we do a lot of A/B testing. Because we don't trust ourselves. We don't trust what our consumers say or what we say. We trust what our members do. Behavior tells you what really is going to work. So how important is it that they watch something yesterday versus they watched something a year ago? And how much should we weight them differently when personalizing? How important is it if the images are this big versus this big? When we have a row on Netflix, should there be 5 titles on a row? Should that be different from when I'm on my iPhone versus when I'm on my laptop versus when I'm on a TV? How do we design these things? So how do we do the algorithms better? We A/B test lots of things. We have a good idea, or at least what we think is a good idea. We put hundreds of thousands of people in that, randomly selected, in that new way that we want to do things, and we randomly select another 200,000, 300,000, and we put them in a control cell. And then we see, there's our new idea, the better experience we think we're giving those people, is it truly better? Are they sticking with the service more? Are they watching more content and we're delivering them more value? And if it is, then we roll it out. That's how we do things in Netflix. I'll show you a fun example of this. A fun example of this is even the images you see. You know how Netflix, it's all designed in rows, and we learned about that through A/B testing. It's all designed in rows, makes it easy for the consumer to find exactly what they want to watch. But in those rows are images. They used to be vertical, and we've tested and we found that horizontal images work better on most devices. So those horizontal images, there's a long tradition in Hollywood, in Bollywood, around the world, for people to be in a room and to subjectively trust their own opinion or trust an opinion of a big boss who has lots of experience. Maybe it has been picking poster art for 30 years. And they have such expertise that they know for sure that I want a red car to represent this movie. And I want the star to be leaning on the red car like this. Not like this, but like this. And if this hand isn't this way, then no, I want you to go back and I want you to do it again. Because they're experts. Because they know what is a great image. And then they look at it and they go, I need some fire in the background. I just know that will work. I have a vision that will help people find this movie and make it great. And that attitude isn't necessarily true. And these people who are gurus of picking content and what images work for it doesn't necessarily work. So we questioned that. And so we had a hypothesis. So for Netflix, what we do is we take very different images, sometimes 6 or 8 images for every piece of content, our originals and our licensed content around the world. And we test. Right when we launch a title, we test it with a couple 100,000 people will get one image, randomly selected, another image, and people won't know they're in a test, but we want to see what is going to do the best, connecting that great piece of content that a filmmaker and the actors work so hard on to the people who are really going to enjoy that piece of content. So let's look at an example. So here's a piece of content that we just launched a few weeks ago. Fuller House, a nice, sweet family comedy, great for parents to watch with their kids. In fact, I'm going to watch some of this with my daughter, my 12-year-old daughter, this weekend. And so if you're that expert in the room, you're looking at this and going, that shows the family, it's really sweet looking, look, it shows it's good for all ages. That's the image we think it's going to work. But you know what? We wanted to try something different. So let's just go with an abstract color background with just the 3 female leads. It takes place in San Francisco. Let's just show a beautiful picture of the Golden Gate Bridge. No. Let's show the house that they live in. No, let's just show the kids. No, let's just show the adults. Let's try it in yellow. Let's try it in white. Try all kinds of variations. Then we put it out there. And we see what's going to work. So we did that. And what we found is this image, just a bridge. Who would have thought? Don't tell the actors. They might be a little insulted. But no, I just met one of the actors yesterday. He's a great guy. But if you look at this one, I just met John Stamos right there. So if you look at this one, this drove 5% more viewing. Now you might think 5% is a small number, but keep in mind, across Netflix we have more than 75 million members and quickly growing. That 5%, we connected many, hundreds of thousands of more people to this content who are going to enjoy it. And so we get more value out of the content, more value to the filmmakers, and more people give them more enjoyment, which makes us feel good. So let's look at another example. Jessica Jones. Tonight you're going to see the launch of Daredevil Season 2. This was our second. About time they had a strong woman superhero character. Very proud of this one. This was fun. So on this one, these look kind of similar. I mean, the thing is called Jessica Jones. If we showed the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, that would be really weird. So we didn't test that, but we tested different images of Jessica Jones. One of them with the villain whispering into her ear. The other one's one of them looking more of a drawn image, photograph, different styles. And we wanted to see which one would win. Let's show the results on this one.
Last one.
So in Jessica Jones, the other one was a 5% win. These two were almost a tie, so I lit up both of them. They're both around 7%, but this was the winner. This was 7.2%. This was 6.8%. This one, and here's the weird thing. These look really similar. The size of the head, this one has the villain peeking out, but this did 7% better than the control, this one. That, to me, that blows my mind. Little things can matter that much. Once again, that's many hundreds of thousands of people and probably millions of more hours we're getting people getting to enjoy Jessica Jones because we picked the right image. And that totally pulls the rug out of under all those people who are stroking their chin and going, no, I want more cracked glass over there, and no, I don't like this, you're fired. Get me another image. Forget about that stuff. That's all subjective. We're putting objectivity into something that's been very historically subjective. Now I'm going to let you guys play at home. Go to the next one. Sword of Destiny, a martial arts Netflix original movie we just released. Let's say this is one. I'm going to have you guys guess. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
3 for me.
You're thinking 3. I like the courage. He went right in. He's going for 3.
3.
Like in 3.
Four.
I think
4 and 5. 4.
Okay, so
Actually,
here's
4 and 5.
3, 4.
second.
4 and 5. Yeah, between 4 and
We got a
5.
4, 5, so like
Yeah.
this little crack here. Okay, so 3, 4, 5, 2.
I'll go for 2.
2. So first off, it's amazing how much you guys disagree. That's the first note I take on it. It didn't matter what you said. We got a 2, 3, 4, 5. And let's look at what 1. It was very close, so I just showed you the 2. It was 2 and 5.
Yeah.
And just yesterday, I think recently, this one passed this one. If you look on the U.S. service right now, this is the one I was getting when I checked this morning, when I put together these slides.
So I think it's differ from region to region.
So, good question. So, would it differ from region to region? So we've started out with this thing. So we have an idea, and we started out with this thing, and we went totally global with it. So we just wanted to test what just works better for that image. The Golden Gate Bridge for Fuller House. This guy going crazy with this sword for Sword of Destiny, and also this flying guy over here. So that worked. And now the next part of the hypothesis, you could be working on the team, because now you have the next step. Why don't we test this locally? Maybe in India, where are you from?
I'm from Kuwait.
Kuwait, okay. Maybe in Kuwait, that would play differently than it would in India, than it would in the US. So we don't know, and so that's the next step, and then we're going to test that. And the next step we're going to test after that, we are already discussing that, is even though you're from Kuwait, maybe someone who's your next door neighbor would like a different image better. So should we even get subsections based on that? So we're continually trying to make the service better and figure out what is going to resonate the best. So that's good for everyone. It's a win-win. It's a win for the filmmakers who put a lot of work into this. We're now getting more people to watch their movie, and it's a win for the consumer who wouldn't have enjoyed it, because if they looked at this, they would have gone like, that looks a little too artsy for me. But when they look at this, they go like, that's packed with action. Now I'm going to enjoy it. And I don't know why they win either. I'm making up the reasons. All we know is what wins.
Do you,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you trust the data, but do you ever go back and sort of try and figure out why the data is the way it is?
Yeah, so this is what we do. The data itself is behavioral. It just gives you the what. The why you figure out by talking to consumers and doing surveys. So I have a whole part of my team that's called the Consumer Insights team. What we do is we constantly talk to people before we do tests and then after we do tests to find out the why. We're not going to do why on every image, so I'm not going to know exactly why some of these are going to work, but we do the whys on a lot of our other tests. And so an example of consumer research is, I'm a little jet lagged right now, so maybe you guys are, but I'm right with you, because I've sent out teams around the world after we've launched on January 6th. I have part of my team just got back from Turkey, part from Poland, part from Malaysia, part of my team was in Vietnam, and I went with part of my team to India. I was just in Mumbai, and I was in Delhi. And we were in consumers' homes, and we talked to a lot of people. When I was there, I'll talk about the trip I was on less than a week ago. Exactly a week ago, I was in Delhi, and before that I was in Mumbai. We went to people's homes and we honestly asked them, show us how you use Netflix. How can we make it better? What other services are you using? You know, we just want to keep on making the service better. So we do qualitative research to get underneath your why, to your question there, and the what's are A/B testing. And so that's super important to us. And now let's go on to next one. Let's go to the next one. Since we have a couple of guys from India. So here's a movie. I wanted to sharpen my global IQ, so I watched Piku right
So,
before I went to my
Let's see
India
their opinion. Which one?
Yeah, no, okay, you want to play? We'll play. So here, Amitabh, one of the biggest stars ever in India. Maybe the biggest star ever to come out of Bollywood, right here. They even pointed out his house when I was in Mumbai. So here's huge star. Here's what the studio put out, is this image of nice, composed, looks like he's carrying a car, cute girl. Here's the female lead. Here's the love interest part. Here's 2 pictures of the huge star guy. Here's 3 of them. So let's do the. We'll do it one more time, just for the kicks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, what do you think? Shout it
3
out.
for me.
First
One.
one.
Once again, you guys just got to get your story straight.
So one was the image that the
Yeah.
studio put out, right?
Yeah.
That's the image that we're used to seeing. But, so, I mean, why?
And
It's
I've
pretty-
seen that
in the
time and
service.
again with Hollywood movies. Now it's new to us. Now they're in Bollywood and India and so forth. That doesn't always work. And a lot of times it doesn't, even though you're used to
I
it.
think that's the familiar image for us.
Yeah, no, but that is a fact.
Like if I look at that image even without the name of the movie, I know that's people. Not necessarily the rest of the movies.
Yeah, and sometimes, so, did anyone pick 6?
No.
No, because it didn't win so good. Did anyone pick 2?
No.
Let's see if 2 won. So, it's interesting you point that out, because this one won, but it was very close to the one they're used to, the image that the studio put out. But I've seen other examples of major American movies where the studio, what they put out, even though they're used to it. So they it has, it's like
you
the
think they have hundreds of years of
I
maybe
think
not
it's
hundreds,
experience.
decades of
a
experience.
no, but 100 years, a whole century to get this right.
Right.
And the reason probably this one is because she's the hottest star right now in India.
Is she?
She's
Yeah.
the hottest female lead in India right now.
But you
Okay.
realize it's not out and out like a winner like the other categories we had, like 7%, 8%. Like,
This one's
It's just barely.
This one's around almost exactly 1%. But keep in mind, you guys know better than me. This was a huge hit in India. So, you know, when it's doing well, then we have it licensed in India for us. So that's a lot of viewing hours. And we're talking about many, many hours. So that 1% is quite significant. We want to go with the right image. So we're going to go past the studio image and go into the one of just this hot. I didn't know she was such a hot actress in India right now.
So
that's
this
good to know.
this
And I
based
think the others are actually, if you see, they're negative.
So now I got to be honest to you. That's exactly the attitude they have in these rooms. I want the green car back there. I want the flames. And the reason is because this. And they just, I'm not saying that you're full of shit. Don't quote me on that. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying, well, maybe a little bit. But what I am saying is that that's what the whole industry, that's what this stuff is built on. Everyone has an opinion about what exactly is going to work on the whys. And really, it's consumer behavior that really tells us what wins. And believe me, we've seen shocking things of people who are huge stars, and then like we saw like that Bridge one for Fuller House. You just don't know what's going to win. So this is the way, the method we use to make the service better and better. Let's go to one more image to show you.
So this is based on the Indian market, or it's a global thing?
That was global.
global.
And that's exactly what I was talking about for the global algorithms. The Indian market, we're nascent, we're growing, we have early adopters trying it now. Those are the kinds of people I talked about when I was in Mumbai and Delhi. I talked to 2 types of consumers from my team. We went into consumer homes who are just using, who have broadband internet, who are early adopters who like entertainment but haven't tried Netflix. And we talked about the early people who tried this. That wasn't just in India, that was global. But once, like I said, we're going to start making it more and more local as we get the bigger population sizes. This is what's launching tonight at midnight. Daredevil Season 2. What's the winner here? The answer is,
Legal.
which one?
Graphic?
The legal? What do you say?
The legal.
The bottom image.
What a change we have.
They're talking about the heading.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't read the headings. I didn't like, legal.
the legal
It sounds
one.
so legal. I go like, what is this, illegal what I'm doing? I think this is totally legal. If that's your question, it's legal. This one you think's
Yeah.
good. And my answer is, I don't know. We don't know because it hasn't launched yet. I will know, we will all know in a few days. Write us back and we'll let you know. Send us an email in a week or two. We don't know. I have a guess. I'm just totally guessing now. I'm not pretending. I have no things. I'm not pretending anything. I'm guessing this one. But and I can make up all my reasons and I can give you a long novel and describe it and sound super intelligent, and I would be bluffing because I can make up those reasons, but those reasons aren't really. So we'll find out. And you notice on this one we're launching 8 images. It's such a popular show, we could spread it out. We could try a whole bunch of things. So now, should I unleash them for the questions, or should I just keep on filibustering?
So we have about 5 minutes for questions, but
Okay, go.
again, he's going to be here all day at dinner, so but let's, go ahead.
Yeah, go. I'll answer as many as I can.
Okay, 2 questions.
Yes, go.
Recommendations, right? So when you look at certain people's profile and you say, hey, person like this would enjoy certain content which is not on their country's catalog, say for example.
Okay, fair.
And it's not an isolated case. Let's say you have a lot of people with similar tastes in a country, and you know that people of their tastes, by and large, would also want stuff which is not
I
in
hear
there,
you. Yeah.
right? Would that be like the nugget that you would also be looking at? Hey, maybe we should work at getting that content, which we've maybe ignored because it's not typical to that market.
Yeah.
Although,
So
yeah.
I'll answer that in a couple of ways. First, I'll say that the big, audacious goal for Netflix that we're really starting to do and lay a foundation for is releasing everything at the same time. That's why we invited you on a big occasion, which is tonight. Eventually, there will be one global catalog. For our originals, we're able to have control because we're producing them, so we can release them at the same time. If we see a title like you're saying, where we think it would have great demand in whatever country, if we can license it, we'll license it. Absolutely. Well, we can't.
My question was
Yeah.
essentially, do you use that as a data point to
Yes.
figure out new stuff you need to license
Sure.
versus the obvious stuff?
We use our data. So we use data a lot in the licensing world because the content's out there and we know a lot about that content, we can license it. We use data some in the originals world, but it's part science, it's mostly art, but there's part science, the originals. Have you met Cindy Holland yet? So when you meet Cindy Holland, she's my colleague who runs original Netflix series. She'll talk about how much we use an original from. But for licensed content, it's a huge factor, and we will use it, and we'll see if we can license it.
But
Yeah.
how do you decide? For example, if you launched in India, how do you know what stuff, what should you license for India? Because you don't have any data on that. Like how many users are looking for that content?
So, once again, twofold. One fold is what I've been saying all along. It's less important what your next door neighbor likes, and more important what globally. Good stories. We're really under the strong conviction that we know that, look, there's Bollywood, there's Hollywood. Mostly Bollywood is watched in India, more Hollywood is watched in the U.S. We know how that works. There are exchanges. We live right by, big Indian communities here in Northern California, and they're watching a lot of Bollywood. And there are Hollywood films that do well in India. So that's the most important thing. We think that's going to the world's heading in that direction more and more. That Narcos example that you brought up. You get credit for this part of this presentation. So the world's heading more and more. That's first. Secondly, though, what else is going to work in India? What local content's going to work in India? A lot of it is just we talk to people, we look at as much data that's out there, and trial and error. We try things, we're expanding it, we're going to keep on growing the catalog, we're going to learn.
Go ahead.
Are you guys able to sort of use, there are a lot of people, in a lot of countries where still not many anymore, but Netflix wasn't available before January 6th, and they were using proxies. Are you able to tap into all of that data? Say there was one person, say in India, watching House of Cards before it was available.
It's a proxy.
Yeah, and is that an indicator for you?
No.
Two answers to that.
Yeah.
It's a lot smaller than people think it is.
Okay.
It's exaggerated how many people do that. We're never sure exactly how many. We try to triangulate, and we don't know. We literally don't have access to such data. So that's nothing.
So when someone is going through a proxy, you really don't know. and like you can't sort of use that as an indicator. Okay, that might be popular there. Maybe we can try and bring that show to that country if that's not available on that catalog. If you can license
We are
it.
doing everything we can as Netflix to make content as global as possible.
Yeah.
So that's not even an issue anymore.
Okay.
And we're going to get there in the next few years. It's just going to take some time.
So you said eventually there'll be
One
yeah,
more question, and then you guys get
one quick one.
another.
You said eventually all content would be global, as in you'll have a common catalog. But in India, if you look at the catalog currently, even the shows which are there, some of the seasons are not the latest seasons. So is there a challenge getting?
We do everything
Licenses.
we can to get us full. There are a few examples. Most of the time, we start from the beginning of a show and we have as full as we can. And usually, it's good. Usually, we're best in class at getting a full series. And so we continually strive to license as much of a story as we can. And if you see any differences, it's not because of a Netflix-driven thing. It's because we're negotiating to get the best possible thing for India. So the story I really hope you guys take back, because it's important to us, because we are trying hard. We are really focused on. I just came back from your country. I can tell you all about Mumbai and Delhi, or at least what I learned in a week and a half. But is we're doubling the catalog, we're improving the service, day over day, week over week. We're taking a service we're very proud of, and we're trying to make ourselves even prouder of it because we want to engage people around the world, whether they live in India, Kuwait, wherever.
Thank you.
Just one last question.
Okay, it's got to be
Just-
quick
yeah.
though, so everyone get a bathroom
Um,
break.
yeah. You'd mentioned the bit about how people just want to sit back and get stuff recommended to them, right? There is also, I'd say, a fair bit of an audience who goes through IMDb, looks at ratings and stuff like that, and then comes back, right?
Yeah.
Why is there not, at some level, maybe a conscious effort to expose the rating system? I know this is a question you get a lot because you don't show ratings to the end consumer, right? I can't sort, say, for example, shows in a genre by the rating I assign to, right? Why not? I mean,
Yeah,
for the guys who want
Good
to.
question. And I actually saw people in India who use IMDb. Yeah, that is a behavior that's done. We have tested many, many variations of Netflix, and we're going to continue to test. All the features that people say they want, when you start putting it into the service, it adds complexity. The complexity you add on the service better justify itself with enough upside benefit for more people. And so when you see Netflix is very simple, and the easy to use part is because we're willing to throw things overboard to really keep it straightforward. And so it's good. People can use other services to find out stuff, but the majority of Netflix members have plenty of information there to find out what they want to watch. So, okay, guys,
so much.
I will be around, and I
Thank you so
really
much.
enjoyed this, so thank you so much.
Thank you so much.